what is that called when it's time to start the program? It's start time, it is go time, it's watch this time, it's press play time, it's we've got to view this time, it's sit down. Welcome to the Cinefanatics. My name is Robert Adams, and I am here today with a spoiler-free review for Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Before I get started with this, make sure you let me know your thoughts and feelings and opinions of this movie, and were you a fan of the original one going in to see this one? Let me know that down below in the comments. While you're down there, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Hit that bell so you get notified when we drop new videos. Getting into this, I am a huge fan of the original Beetlejuice. Like, everything about that movie I vibe with. The silliness of it, the practical effects, the cartoonish nature of the character that Michael Keaton is playing, whose name we shall no longer say. Whatever, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. It's showtime! Sure. I am a fan of the original. I love the original. I can almost recite the original movie. That being said, going into this movie, yeah, there's a potential chance that I might have like rose-colored glasses just because of how much I adore the original movie. So my judgment's going to be pretty high on this one. This is a movie that I was very much anticipating all year. Like, I could not wait. When I first heard about this movie, I was chomping at the bit to see the trailer. And then after seeing the trailer, I was eager to watch the movie. And now here we are on the other side of seeing the movie, and I have some thoughts on this. First and foremost, the number one thing you're going to hear people talk about if they say anything negative about this movie, it's going to be the story. While the story does delve into themes of like life and death and grieving, especially the death part, which, I mean, go figure, it's a Beetlejuice movie. This whole thing primarily takes place using characters from the afterlife. Sure, but based around those themes, there are a couple of directions this movie goes. There are different like little subplots that are all somewhat kind of tied into one another, or they have a loose connection between them. But for the most part, there's a lot of these subplots that just are not needed. It's kind of hard for me to dive into that without really getting spoilery with it, but there's certain characters, especially newer characters, that have things that they have to deal with, that they look into, that they are having to confront, and it's just stuff that overall really wasn't needed. It was like a video game side quest, and you don't necessarily need to do that to be able to complete the entire movie or game. So I feel like a lot of that kind of bogged down the movie for me, while I feel like the original did have like essentially two running plots, with the Maitlands having to deal with their death, then you've got the Dietzes moving into the house and having to deal with ghosts and stuff, and then of course you have Beetlejuice tying both of those storylines together. This one has a little bit more of this person has a storyline, this person has a storyline, this person has a storyline, and we're constantly flipping and flopping between all of these storylines back and forth. It just makes things a little more muddled and confusing, and just, it doesn't flow very well as far as the storytelling goes. Otherwise, I am very happy to return back to this Tim Burton fantasy world because I miss it. Again, a big fan of the original movie. I love being back in this world and at least being able to check in on what these characters are up to nowadays. Like seeing all the fantasy stuff as well, all the practical effects, some of them like the sandworms being stop motion again, a lot of that is fun and interesting, and I love to see what they've done with that. I don't think overall, special effects wise, I don't think it necessarily pushes the full limits of what I would have liked to seen in a modern Beetlejuice movie coming off of like the late 80s to now 2024. I feel like we probably could have pushed a little bit further in practical effects. especially when you look at what other effects-driven movies are out there. For example, I will use the instance of the Terrifier movies. Those have glorious practical effects that are very realistic looking. While that's great for that movie, Beetlejuice is more of a live-action cartoon, and I want to see more effects towards that, besides just the awesome makeup job, the awesome costumes, once again done by Colleen Atwood. So yeah, every time her name pops up on the opening credits of a movie, costume design, I'm like, these are gonna look good. But I would have liked to have seen more of what they could have done, and I feel like they kind of scaled it back and they just really didn't dive into that world as much as they did in the original. The other welcome return that I love of this is we are back with Danny Elfman's music. He changes up the main theme ever so slightly, makes it sound a little more bombastic for the current day. But I still love it. Like, the opening theme playing with the opening credits, I'm still sitting here, like, moving around, bopping my head, kind of somewhat dancing to it in my theater seat. It's kind of hard to skip out on moving around and enjoying a good classic movie theme song, especially something like that where, again, keeping in mind the original Beetlejuice at the time was an original film. To be able to pull off an original film by a director, and I believe that was Tim Burton's second movie after Pee-wee's Big Adventure, for him to be able to pull off an original film and then also have Danny Elfman hit a good classic theme song that sticks in your brain like an earworm, I absolutely love it. So back to that world with that kind of score and music, and it's great. Even if the rest of the movie is just a little bit jumbled, in my opinion, at least we've got some solid music to back it all up with. And then that leads to probably one of the biggest things that people would like to talk about with this movie, and that's going to be the cast. Michael Keaton once again returns to play the ghost with the most, and I like his portrayal still. I still think he does a phenomenal job as Beetlejuice. I feel like he was a little more unhinged in the original movie, but he still does a very good job in this movie as well. The makeup is a little more updated, and I think part of that has to do with the fact that, yes, Michael Keaton has aged, surprisingly, since the last movie, but he still kind of just fits right back into that role, like it's an old friend coming back to visit, and everyone's just back to business as usual the way it used to be, and you can see that with his portrayal. That being said, there's some more things I wish they could have done with the Beetlejuice character. I do believe he's getting a lot more screen time in this movie than he did in the original. I think the original, he's famously known for only having like 17 minutes out of like an hour and a half long movie in a movie called Beetlejuice. So he does get a little bit more screen time, I believe, in this movie. But I still kind of feel like his character is kind of sidelined, much like the original. Like, yes, the original movie, the whole movie wasn't necessarily about Beetlejuice. It was, like I said before, about the Maitlands and about the Dietzes, with Beetlejuice just tying the two of them together. Same thing with this. Again, there's so many different storylines, and Beetlejuice is one of those storylines. There is stuff that Beetlejuice himself is having to deal with on his own, for his own, I guess, character growth, if you want to call it that. And then also he's having to pop in to everyone else's storyline, basically, and having to help them or assist them or mess them up in some form or fashion. So it just gets a little messy. So that's all I can really say about that. I don't know how much I can harp on that. Winona Ryder back, though, as Lydia Dietz. It's nice to see her as basically the same exact character as an adult. I like that she still has held on to that like goth aesthetic that her character had in the original movie. She's not as like melancholy. She's not sitting here like, my life is death, I am not alive, or whatever she says. I love the original. I can almost recite the original movie. She's not quite like that. She does have an adult mind frame. She has an adult sensibility about her. She is raising her child Astrid, or trying to. And so we get to see that kind of side to this character, which I like. again, this is going to go back to the whole idea of she's just thrown into kind of like multiple storylines and stuff that she has to deal with, and it gets cluttered for her as well. Other returning favorite, Catherine O'Hara as Delia Dietz. Love seeing her back again. She's always a good, fun person to have in your movies. She's a little unhinged as well. She's not quite all there, and it makes her character fun. Of course, as you can see in the trailer, we are dealing with the loss of her husband and Lydia's father, Charles Dietz, which, as far as the character, God rest his soul. As far as the actor...
Don't even say his name. He does not work well with others.
I like how that is kind of like a driving force for her character, for Delia's character. But just... every single one of these is coming down to the same exact issue. Is it was great seeing them, but it's just what they get forced into storyline-wise. I just feel is just very ham-fisted. It just didn't work for me. New coming characters, we got Jenna Ortega as Astrid, and she brings that Wednesday Tim Burton vibe to this movie as well. Now, the funny thing about this is her character is not inherently creepy or gothic as like her mom Lydia is, or her character in Wednesday. And I feel like that kind of helps, giving us like a sense of realism, giving us a character that we can attach ourselves to, unless you are also dark and creepy. It gives you somewhat like an everyman or woman character that you can attach to follow as all the zaniness and all these storylines are going on. Again, storylines involving Astrid are kind of hit or miss in this movie, in my opinion. Other characters, Justin Theroux, he has a couple of interesting parts. One part that's extremely cringe that I was just wanting to like fast forward, just get me out of this scene. But I think that's actually supposed to be a part of this of that scene. Ultimately, I would say his character wasn't necessarily needed. I really didn't care about him or his character, anything that he was having to go with. And by the end of the movie, I'm like, okay, cool, whatever, dude. So can't say I'm on board with his character right off the bat. And then you also got Monica Bellucci, who is essentially Beetlejuice's ex-wife. She's a soul-sucking witch, and all she's trying to do is just get revenge on Beetlejuice. So that is her entire storyline, is just trying to find Beetlejuice throughout the course of the movie so she can exact her revenge on him. Not gonna say I'm not sad to see Monica Bellucci, just it's very nice seeing Monica Bellucci anytime you can see Monica Bellucci. Even if she has staples across her face. She kind of got that like Bride of Chucky vibe going on at that time. But still, nice to see Monica Bellucci in a movie. Before I start sounding like a simp for Monica Bellucci over here, she has a good, strong character. It's just, I don't know how necessary I would think her character should actually be in the storyline. Back to one of those kind of feels like ham-fisted and forced in their characters, and it's really like the driving motivation for Beetlejuice and his own storyline throughout this movie. Otherwise, I like seeing Monica Bellucci in this movie. What can I say? Otherwise, yeah, that's going to be it for this movie. Like, in all honesty, if you are a fan of the original movie, then you're going to go see this. You don't need my opinion or anyone else's opinion. You're a fan. You're waiting for this movie. Opening weekend, you're going to be there regardless of what anyone says. I get that. For me, as a fan, had I known what I know now, you know what? I probably would still say go see this in the theater, just because of the makeup job, the atmosphere, the set production design, the way the movie looks. It looked awesome on the big screen. Seeing this back to the world of Beetlejuice on the big screen, absolutely adored it, loved it, whatnot. If you're not necessarily a Beetlejuice fan, I wouldn't necessarily say this is a movie that you have to go run to the theater for. Unless you are going with like some friends and other people who are fans of Beetlejuice and you just want to have a good time and hang out. The movie is funny. There's some good chuckles in it still. I recommend, then go. Absolutely. But if you're not, just wait for it to pop up like on probably Max when it comes out as far as streaming goes. Otherwise, it's an okay time at the movies. So, anyways, that is going to be my review for it. Again, what did you think of Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, and how big of a fan are you of the original movie, and how eager are you anticipating this one? Let me know down below in the comments. While you're down there, again, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Follow us on social media. We are at The Cinefanatics on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You can follow me personally at RCA Reacts on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Letterboxd, and YouTube.com/@RCA Thank you for watching this video. We'll see you on the next one. It's showtime. Or, well, it's the end of the video, so it's not showtime anymore. You get the idea.